Yo, what's going on? We are back with another episode of the Unsilent Church podcast. And we got the crew up in the building today. What's going on, y'all?
How we doing?
I'm chilling, man.
What's happening?
Y'all doing good?
Yeah.
It's just us three.
Just us
I
three.
know. Yeah. Hey, man. Sometimes you guys just had the Three Musketeers. You know?
I mean, it feels like after doing
Yeah, we've had
the joint with the BD and then
a few
got
guests.
the other joint with, with Kara.
Shout out to Crystal, too. You know what I mean? Shout out to Crystal.
It was supposed to be 4.
Yeah, you know.
Crystal, we miss you. It ain't going to be the same.
Hope you feel better.
But listen, man, we got a great podcast episode today. Pastor V, tell us what we're talking about.
So we'll be talking about an article that came out on the Christian Post. And the title article is this: nearly all top 25 worship songs are tied to 5 megachurches in the past decade. So the article basically goes on to explain that a lot of the music, say basically almost 100% of our top worship songs that are sung in churches, conferences,
100%?
etc., are coming from songwriters and artists from essentially 5 churches: Bethel, Hillsong, Elevation, Passion, and North Point Community Church. So
North Point is Andy Stanley, right?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that,
right.
yeah, that's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Or Georgia, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's different things to tease out from this. Oh, actually, a lot to really think about this, but I think
So much.
really what we want to I'd sort of put it out there in terms of like what we feel about that. One thing to suggest here is clearly church's music, the things that we sing and worship together, it influences us, it guides us, right? Gordon Fee says this: show me a church's song and I'll show you their theology. And so there's a suggestion here then that if the majority of our worship music is just coming from 5 churches, how do we feel about that? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And let me just say this. I mean, we've sung a lot of those songs. They're good songs, but it is still a big question to ask that. And when you think about this too, American worship music tends to influence the globe, right? And so when you think of this kind of music, is not just, don't just think it's only influencing American churches. It's influencing churches all around the globe, just 5 churches doing that. What are you guys' thoughts about this article?
My initial thought was like nearly 100%. That's kind of that's wild. That's a wild figure. It seemed like they cornered the market for sure.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to say too,
Making a lot of money.
Man, well, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. I think we had
that might be the center of the conversation.
We had a previous episode that talked about the
business of church.
Yeah. And so, but one thing I was thinking too, like some of these churches in these things, there's like they have like songwriting like camps as well. Mm-hmm. And some of these, they have schools. So
Networks.
So
it's broader than just like one church.
That's what I'm getting at too. So I think the article is a helpful article, but I think we also have to put it's not just those 5 churches because of the schools, the songwriting retreats, and like we're talking about a whole influence of people, not just 5 churches.
Shout out to Kara, who gives us great show notes. But she
shout out to Kara.
So 5 churches are part of church planting networks that collectively represent over 150 churches in 30 countries.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's a big helpful piece to say that it's not just, even though those 5 churches are very influential, it's more broader than just those 5 churches.
Yeah. So true. And I do come back to thinking this though, that if you're if you're up and coming songwriter, it's almost like you want to get attention. You've got to get connected to these networks.
Yeah, I don't know. So here's an interesting paragraph in here. So from 2010 to 2020, only 38 worship songs appeared on the Christian Copyright Licensing International, which is like CCLI is like how churches sort of cover the costs and like rightfully use the songs and re-sing those songs.
Ethically use the songs type of thing.
Right. It's the same thing that exists in the music industry. It's like compulsory licensing, whereas if you're playing it in clubs and things of that sort, you pay for publishing, and that's how artists get compensated for their intellectual property, which is these songs that they've written. So CCLI is that for the Christian industry. 38 worship songs appeared on CCLI and Praise Chart's top 25 list. Mm-hmm. The CCLI lists is like the Billboard charts of music. 37 of the 38 songs were either written or popularized by either Bethel, Hillsong, Elevation, Passion, or North Point.
Dang,
so the churches, like the mega churches.
Yeah.
And so that does say something about like, how do we gauge influence? I don't know if it's necessarily the case that because churches sing the songs, it necessarily defines their theology. And I think that gets into that sort of industry of church conversation because it's become such a, I don't want to call it rote, but it has become a production of sorts. Like we plan at my everyday job to plan a conference. Like it takes almost a year to do that, right?
To do it right. Yeah.
To do it right.
Oh yeah.
Churches
and
do
a
that.
lot of resources.
Churches do that every single week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Gather people flow from one thing to the next. There's an order of it. There's an itinerary. Kids have to be accounted for and taken care of.
Security.
There are teachers, volunteers. There's so much going on. When I just think about the day-to-day requirement of organizing such an event / experience, like, yes, there is selection of songs, but does it necessarily mean that when we sing these songs, this is a definitive indicator of what the church's theology is?
Okay.
I'm not sure
That's fair.
just to that one
Yeah.
quote.
Okay. That's a good tease out. So maybe let's go in this direction though with that. It might be unfair to say, well, because the church sings these Bethel or Passion songs, that means they're full. Or even, I mean, those churches, Bethel, North Point, Elevation, you look at their full sort of theology. There's things I'm not on board with, and yet some of the songs, they're solid. They're singing about sovereignty of God, praise God, etc. Right, and so you're right. It's not.
Isn't Oceans? Oceans is part of one.
I think so.
You know, I've heard an interesting critique on Oceans.
Okay.
But here's the thing I would say though is
I like it.
the kind of songs that they're.
I'm sorry. I like Oceans.
Okay. He likes Oceans. Make that clear. Do we need to have that playing as we're talking right now?
They have Christy put that in the background, but make sure they get their CCLI.
That's right. What I was going to say though is, though it does those songs though, if you notice those top 25 songs, they all are sort of one type of style or one type of thing. Like
one style of sound.
I call it almost like anthem type praise.
Yeah.
Right? Anthem.
That's
you
fair.
know, like shout to the Lord type of like, we're on fire for Jesus, that kind of song. And it is worth asking just that sort of approach to worship. There's you don't see songs about lament right in there. You don't see songs that are suffering that are more. You look at our Psalter. There's a lot of different type of things. It is worth asking, just that sort of the type of songs that we do, how that influences churches in terms of the things that we're thinking about and singing about.
Yeah.
In other words, is worship of God only good if like people feel like they were jumping up and down and yelling right at the top of their lungs?
Going into the idea of shaping our theology, if we, to your point, V, if we're only having songs that are just anthem-like and happy type of thing, then when life gets hard, when death happens, when cancer happens, when miscarriages happen, these types of things like that, when that happens, if all of our worship music diet is happy, what happens when, going back to that theology stuff? Because I do think that a lot of times more people probably are going to remember a song more than they remember the preacher's sermon on Sundays. The song probably is going to,
in some ways,
for a lot of people.
Well, you think
I'm
about
generalizing, but I think that's
think about this. Yeah, I mean, are people more likely to replay the sermon multiple times,
or the song,
or a song?
And it's going to be the song.
It's gonna be song.
Unless the sermon is fire. The sermon got to be fire.
Yeah, that's true, but they're not going to play that on repeat.
Yeah,
they're not going to play a 35, 45,
and that's
55-minute sermon on repeat. You just can't. Where you can play a 3-minute song.
Yeah. And to be clear, I mean, preaching. I do think preaching. This is a slight tangent, but I mean, preaching is more about sort of the impression you give upon people, right, and the way you slowly shape them. Preaching still matters, but to your point, we shouldn't downplay the influence of music on people. And so if your music is all one type of style, one type of approach to God, that does have an effect, I think, on how you approach things.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm upset at the style of the music. I think the thing that I think about is how did it become the central thematic for Christian music, right? Like, how did those songs become like so popular such that nothing else was able to sort of ascend the charts, such that when you look at 37 of the 38 top songs, it represents, the manifold wisdom of God that's supposed to be present through the church. It shows what looks like, a concentrated, concentrated talent, right? From very big mega churches that have, again, a lot of money for distribution and travel and maybe some of those other things that you go, oh, are we not inviting enough other people to come to conferences and sing those songs and sing their local songs, which is one side of it that I think we could talk to. The other side is, as the church, because I do think, and this could be a little controversial.
Just a little.
It's possible. I do think that sometimes, and this is where I do wish Crystal were here because she could validate this, but I have a hunch that at times there might be tension between what's more important, the music or the preaching. And then which one do you invest money into? It's like, what do you prioritize? Now, again, I think most people will be like, no, Bible, what are you talking about? The preaching, like faith comes by hearing by the word of God. Preaching is it. But then, like, do you sing unto the Lord a new song? And like all the things about music and worship and the environment that those things happen in, like, obviously, I think it's both. But is there the same investment happening in other churches that maybe aren't as big as North Point or Elevation or some of these others that give those musicians their opportunity to create songs at the local level that then at least in some way have a chance to be sung at other conferences? Because again, these people they're traveling when a big conference is held. It's like, oh, go get that band from that church to sing this song, and then it makes the circuit.
When you say how did these songs become like the central point?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that get into also like media, but also into like consumers too? Like,
yeah,
but
but
if there's a demand, I guess I'm trying to say, like, for a lot of people, if there's a demand for that type of thing, then that's part of that equation. But then there's also like the media the outlets, the platforms that that have that, they're the ones teeing that up, right?
Yeah, but it's
that.
It's the relationship. It's like, you've probably seen this where churches and their pastors are preaching at each other's churches. It's the same thing. It's like, oh, we're doing music and we're swapping and we're hearing each other's bands playing. We're hearing that song. We're like, oh man, that's got to be at the next conference. And this conference is going to have 10, 20,000 people. And when Passion does their thing, hey, you got to get this band because they've got to do that. And now in front of 60,000 students, they're singing this song and getting everybody to raise their hands. It's like, I want that song. So it's like, let's make an album. Let's record it. Let's have distribution. Let's make sure we have our publishing. Now, again, there's a whole business machine behind this, because once that song gets written, there are processes that they know very well to get that song recorded, on distribution, on
Get it out there.
Spotify, on iTunes. They have their like, I think it's like publishing rights organizations. It's a PRO, but they have all those things set up so that when they create
like
these songs,
like ASCAP?
yeah, ASCAP, BMI, a bunch of others. But again, CCLI is collecting all that publishing. Like, they know about the business of all of these things. So when a song gets written, it's like, oh, that's an opportunity. And then again, there are buttons that can be pushed to make sure, like, how do we get this song heard? It's great. It's amazing. And if you have the distribution of like, oh, we have a 10,000 member church. If people love it here, I'm sure another 10,000 member church will love it. I'm sure a 60,000, attendee conference is going to love it. And then it becomes the central thing of everybody's.
I mean, these are talented people by
They are. I'm just saying locally.
But in terms of like, what I'm saying is, it's now though, it's almost like it's too big to fail, right? And so it's
it's an interesting use of phrase.
I almost like, even the song is average, it's still going to get attention, right? Because they have the best musicians, the best recording, the best studios. There's a built-in audience. So Chris Tomlin, it almost doesn't matter what he puts out there. People are going to be like, I trust it, right? And then if Chris Tomlin's singing with someone else, you're right.
And despite on what stage they're singing.
Exactly. So it just automatically goes out. And so it becomes, that's the other thing too, is like there's will there be, we want other voices to be heard. One of the things we have in our show notes is sort of even to think of like the global church, right? And some of those voices. You mentioned, smaller churches. There's legitimate good music happening.
Incredible music.
And I think like an independency, we can call it that, right? Really, really good music happening there. And that's interesting and thorough, but it doesn't have nearly the power and the resources behind it. And so I would say this is going to continue unless churches say, how do we use what we have and give it away for the sake of others and for the benefit of others? And that's not necessarily happening. It does feel a little bit like, hey, here's the five and their networks, and we do what we do, right? And if you want to be part of this, you need to join us, as opposed to, hey, how do we sort of open up space for other voices, for other type of ideas and thoughts and approaches and themes, right, to what we do.
Yeah, I'm going to compare this to like the big record labels of like the 90s.
I was just thinking go ahead. Because I was literally just thinking about hip hop.
You've even heard this with Hillsong, where it's like the artists and the talent aren't getting broke off the way people think they are, right? So Ocean's being a mega hit. Like, I think her name's Tara. I don't think she was broke off of that song because she wrote it or performed it the way that she did. Like, and you would think like, what are you talking about? You're the one on Ocean. It's like, yeah, but the way the business was set up, it wasn't. So there's a part where it's like, just like in mainstream music, there's a way that they do the business and sign these contracts. When again, these are people who are in the business world and then find opportunities and say, oh, here's a space that is untapped. We can do the same thing here, produce all this money for the kingdom, but then mistreat, the talent who has produced this from the creativity, and then they're not able to feed their families and like enjoy some of the privileges that some of the leaders have, and some of the same things are happening.
Yeah,
I think similarly to the independent movement and what people like Chance have done, what Toby Wigwa is doing now. I do think there is an opportunity to, I think, finance, like to actually fund talent at more local levels. And in the same sense that, again, churches gather to plant churches in neighborhoods that other people don't want to plant. I think the same thing needs to happen. I think a similar collective needs to be created that funds these projects for artists who tend to be overlooked for whatever reason, right? Like I remember, I don't know if she signed anything, but Liz Weiss, like she's written some music that I'm just like, yo, this soulful, worshipful type of sound is like, that's the stuff we need, but we don't have the sort of like infrastructure, like the call it kingdom infrastructure that says, hey, we are really trying to look for this kind of talent because we understand the process to get this out, get this in front of the right people, get this in front of an audience, distribute it so that you get paid, we get paid, and that way we can continue to put music like this out so that it does get to more places around the globe. And it's not just, oh, we're singing the same Hillsong, Bethel, Elevation songs that everybody else is singing, because we know there's more voices. There's much more of a manifold wisdom in the music than just those five.
All around the world.
Exactly.
So, one thing though, too, I wonder if it'll be just interesting if some of those bigger companies, networks, et cetera, were more oriented towards how do we equip sort of smaller churches, smaller areas
with the equipment, with the gear
to do music that's maybe particular to them. And so maybe even thinking of it in terms of some of the best music we've sung at Roosevelt is music that was just really within our own congregation, right? That people wrote. And
shout out to Sam Freeman.
Yeah, so Sam has written some stuff. There's been others who've come through Roosevelt and written things that during that season were really, really good. And there's something about music that is coming from our church. And not to say we're against it being distributed, et cetera, but like it'd be interesting to think of, hey, how do we bring, so they all have the resources and et cetera and the talent. How do we have programs that go into those churches and help them write their own music, and that's particular to their setting and that's helpful for their worship. Because right now you might say it's sort of it's mass produced. It is.
No, it is. It's become
it's like McDonald's, right? You're going to get
it is industry.
This type of music.
Yes,
this type of food from McDonald's all the time. You're going to get this type of music from these churches. It's sort of going to
follow the same pattern.
Exactly, and it's good. But is that's good for every single local church around the globe? Even I would say no. The different churches have different needs, et cetera. Different things you want to draw out from them in their overall worship. And
these churches will benefit from that too. Like it's never a situation where it's like it has to be reversed. It's like there's so much that you can learn from the life and the story of, call it the margins or just, smaller churches. There is just something that happens when you can see life through the eyes and the voice of another. And then that informs your music because you're like, man, I had no idea that life could even look that way. I've got one idea because I know you got something. I know there are churches out there who write big grants. I had a friend tell me about a grant they got, and they use it to build this huge LED wall. Praise God for the LED wall. If you out there writing grants, I'm saying use some of that money for churches who want to build out recording studios, podcast studios, like who want to produce the kind of media to extend the gospel beyond the Sunday stage, because we know there are 168 hours in a week. We spend 2 of those inside the building of the church, 2 at max.
And some people don't even come to church no more either. So.
And again, I don't know if we've gone over that research, but like we're talking about like 29 times in a year. That's like regular going to church, and you're going 2 hours a week, right? Most people don't sleep 8 hours a day, but I'll give you 8 hours. That's still over 100 hours of messages you're getting from everywhere else, right? And you think 2 hours, 35 minutes of that is when you're getting preaching. Maybe another 20 of that is when you're getting music. And then everything else is just all the other media you're getting from everywhere else. Yeah. And I'm saying if churches are out there already, again, they're already doing this. I'm saying I think there needs to be the kind of investment that helps gospel preaching, native speaking, podcasting, music recording, writing, like the creative like industry or media talent that are in God's people all over the world, all over this country. I think the investment needs to go there because it would help extend the things that we keep talking about and advance the kingdom the way we always say we want to.
You mentioned the music industry.
Yeah.
The churches that we just mentioned, they're more like white evangelical type churches. Is it
predominantly?
Is it the same in like black churches? Because I know like with music, like I know with the black church, the music
is big.
Worship is huge. So like, yeah, you know what I mean? None of these are black churches that have this influence with this particular article in the Christian Post. I'm just curious, is it the same or is it more? Under the black church?
This is
what I'm saying?
This is an interesting thing. I watched Kirk Franklin on I think it was Earn Your Leisure podcast.
Shout out to Kirk.
Shout out to Kirk. Shout out to
I'm needing to stop twerking though. He gotta stop stop doing that, Kirk. I love you, Kirk. I love you, Doc. You gotta stop that.
So Kirk for a long time, again, and there's a guy, Steve Stout, who is like, the general, the commissioner when it comes to the
United Masters, right?
He started United Masters. He started an agency called Translation. He used to be a huge music executive at Sony. Like he's done a lot. He's kind of the guy who started doing the music and branding. He did the Ray-Ban deal with Will Smith and Men in Black. And so the glasses thing, like he's the one who kind of started to bring that sort of cultural branding thing into commercial spaces. So he's sort of a savant in this. And he always talks about how artists don't tend to be as savvy when it comes to the actual economics of music and art the way that those who fund them are. Okay. And so they'll sign contracts that just in most cases aren't in their favor. And so I'm watching this podcast with Kirk, and he talks about, I think for 20 years, like he didn't own his masters, he didn't own his publishing. And so and again, and most of what Kirk was doing was in the black church, right? And so, people talk about, do you want a revolution? It's like songs like that, Melodies from Heaven, like there's a Rolodex. I might have dated myself saying Rolodex. There's a thread. There are threads and threads, right? You can infinitely scroll, right? Kirk Franklin's hits, and so many of them he didn't own the publishing for, and so he could be so much more well off, and then with that money be doing, whatever he sees fit to do with that money. But he could have more freedom to then be making some of the kind of change that he wants to do now. And he's doing great. He's fine. He's a legend in the space. He's OG, sort of a godfather there. Always. But it's just indicative in the sense that regardless of where you are, because again, it's not just Kirk. You talk about Hillsong, same thing. Artists, records, they're doing the things, but they're not getting paid You're not being compensated in the same way, despite the influence that's being had, even when you think about the generous aspect of it, right? So you're thinking Christian music, outdo one another in honor, all those sorts of things. But in this case, it's like, someone's taking all of the funds for that and someone is left, with much, much less versus it being what feels like mutually beneficial.
Yeah. I got a question for you, James, because you said something and I just want to make sure I'm hearing you, or maybe I make sure I'm hearing you and I'm not misinterpreting you. Are you suggesting that churches should not plant churches as much and invest more into podcast media stuff? Because I don't know. I just want to make sure I heard you say
that's like a Charlie Tucker type. What's his name? What's the Tucker Carlson? So what you're saying is,
I'm just asking.
You're saying
because it sounded like you were saying like the hours that's spent at church. There's more hours spent beyond the pulpit, beyond the stage.
There are,
and so
that's just
right. So that's
data. That's just facts. Everybody knows. That's inarguable.
That's what you said.
Say what?
It's all important, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I would say this. I mean, if I can sort of just throw this in there, though, I do think, obviously, the time we spend in church is small compared to the time we spend everywhere else.
Yep.
But obviously, I believe in the Holy Spirit and how God works in even a small amount of time. That like we should underestimate God's ability to radically change and shape people, even in the small amount of time they spend together. That being said, that time, the way we practice what we do in this small amount of time here is in all the other hours.
Exactly.
Right. In other words, if, whatever we're experiencing as we're coming together in that period of time is really only seen, lived out, only really sort of, really has an impact in the majority of the time that we're spending outside of the four walls.
Yep. And let me append that with, again, if you look at Acts 2, it's like day by day they were in each other's homes. Like that doesn't happen today.
That's true.
The way that it did then.
Our church life was different.
You see what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily saying that the answer is in creating all this media that's going to exist in all these places. I'm saying the reality of how people live their lives outside of the buildings of the church are on their phones, at home, at work, in front of screens, all of that. And I'm saying what happens on Sunday can be extended beyond Sunday, right? And the things that happen within the building of the church can be multiplied such that it's present in front of people where they are and not just always trying to get them to come where we are. I'm not saying that you got to pull budget from church planting, because here's what's happening. They're still church planting and investing in LED walls and, dope sound and whatever, which is fine. Do what you want. If you want to.
How much a LED wall cost?
They run the gamut.
LED wall would be dope here, I mean,
an LED wall would be dope.
Is that like 25,000? I don't know.
For a small one.
For a small one.
Again, can
we raise money for LED wall?
I got nothing against LED walls. But what I do know is that there's so many more conversations to be had. There's so much more to be said that can be said. Conversations with people. We talk about being at the table. There's so much that can happen that doesn't just happen Sunday morning at whatever 8, 9:15, 11, 1, 5, 7, whenever you have your service time. You know what I mean?
People come at like 10:25.
Sure. You see what I'm saying? And I'm saying if there are already in existence funds that get invested so that they can build things like LED walls, I'm saying if there is not that
money
already,
can be redirected to something.
I'm saying use it where conversations, or where people need mics, or where people need cameras, and people need,
because you're saying that y'all spending the money anyway.
You're already spending it.
So just redirect it, like
that if you have a group of musicians, why not invest in a local writing group, right? So get just a collection of local churches and say, hey, we're going to create a writers guild. And we're going to just support writers. And again, it's funding. So if it's grant money, if it's written in the form of a grant or whatever, it still gives artists what the advance was supposed to do in the music industry. The idea of it is to say, if I give you $100,000 up front, it removes the liability or the pressure of you having to figure out, how am I going to get my bills paid? It's like, I'm going to give you $100,000 so you can focus, because I think you're talented enough to write music that we can then sort of like create, revenues in perpetuity, right? That's why the deals are so bad. It's like, well, I'll give you this 100,000 now, but I keep 90% of everything that you make. You keep 10, and you don't start making money on what you make until that 10% that you have recoups the 100,000 that I gave you, which means you have to sell $1 million.
It's a loan. It's a loan.
Right. And again, and it could get really, really bad after that. But the idea of it does make sense where it's like, oh, well, I can't focus on making music because I'm stressed about like, how am I going to feed my kids and how am I going to pay my rent and how am I going to fill my gas tank? It's like, well, if that's taken care of, now you can just be creative. You can go take walks. You can take naps in the middle of the day, whatever you want. You've got $100,000 to work with. Write this music. That money is out there. Like it's being spent, it's being given, it's in places, but I don't think people always have the vision of what can actually come out of that. And if we want to see creativity, music, media, whatever, that does, again, demonstrate the manifold wisdom of God in this way, I think they can invest that money in creative ways like writers guilds and production studios and podcast studios, so that, again, we could see more diversity and not just see like 37 of the 38 top 25 songs come from just 5 places.
Yeah, man, it's been a great conversation, especially when it comes to, who's shaping your theology, especially when it comes to music. Obviously, music is very powerful. We see that all throughout the scriptures. And so listen to good music. How about that? That should be. We said a whole bunch of stuff. Just listen to good music.
Listen broadly.
Yeah,
there's more music.
There's
than,
more music out there.
The anthems.
You might gotta mine it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you might gotta
go search for it a little bit.
But it's out there, man.
Hey, if you don't know who Liz Vice is, that's just a little plug. She's got a great album. I don't remember what it was called. Hey, let me see if I could find it. But continue.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, man, if you like this episode,
there's a light. That's what it's called.
Like, share, comment, get in the comments. And listen, we would love to hear what you have to say regarding music for you. Like, what music you listening to?
Comment your favorite artist down in the comments.
Spotify, how they do that curation of the songs and all that.
Yeah, playlist.
Apple Music. The playlist, yeah. What's on yours?
What's on your worship playlist?
So, yeah. But like we always say, love God, love people. We're out. Peace.